okay, it extended the careers of a lot of guys, and not necessarily, health-wise. I mean, God knows what the fuck they were doing, backstage. But, guys like Lance Storm, he kind of came in and, he did what he had to do. He came in and he left. The Hurricanes, another example. Like, he came in and, they didn't necessarily have to keep him. They didn't necessarily have to keep any of those guys, many of them. And because of this is basically the direct result, or it is the direct result of the brand split. And that's, it employed a lot of guys where, I mean, it's business. A lot of guys were also let go. In whatever direction. Like, okay, imagine if Paul Heyman, the head writer of SmackDown at the time, had the chance to work with Mike Awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if he would have been even a contender for the WWE Championship, but damn it, he would have been pretty freaking close. And he would have been able to book him right to the sense of, like, whether or not they would have brought Judge Jim Jones or whoever it was back into the fold, or Jeff Jones, excuse me. And, it's truly amazing. But with the Alliance angle, I don't think it botched. I really don't. I mean, this is where we differ in opinion, and this is why I like doing shows like this. This is where we differ in opinion. I don't think it botched. I think it's just the guys who had the bigger ego just took their contracts and they went home, where, okay, they're also working the 300-day-a-year schedule, or, 250 days, whatever it was with WCW. Some of them just needed a freaking break, and I totally get that. And guys like Hogan and the contract that he had was a great example. I could just sit on this for the rest of, for the rest of this tenure of the Alliance angle, and then come back whenever I'm ready. So it's
still there, brother. That's what Hogan said.
Right,
Dave, I gotta go. On that note, my cheap Hulk Hogan impersonation, I will leave you on, sir.
All right.
It's been a pleasure as always. We'll do this again sometime, hopefully when I have more time.
Absolutely. Thanks for jumping on. Have a good one.
Not a problem, sir.
All right, see ya. And that was Brandon. Very, as quick as he came on, he leaves as abruptly. Let me take a quick break here, really, really quick. Before I do, Blake, let me just get to my opinion on the Invasion. I thought Invasion was a good event. And this kind of goes back to what I just keep saying. It's because of the talent that they had or lack thereof. They really did the best of what they could with what they had. You also had the best commentary as far as pay-per-view commentary is concerned around that time when you had Heyman and Jim Ross working together. That was quite possibly, I mean, that was like the odd couple of commentary, but they worked so well together. You had, I don't know if they worked together at Invasion, or that's when they started, because I know Jerry Lawler was let go from the company at that time. Or he had left or something, I don't know. But I thought Invasion was great. And then, I mean, I guess I see where Brandon's coming from, where like it kind of fell apart. But I think it kind of fell apart after an Invasion where you kind of had to shake things up. And like, okay, this person's representing the Alliance because they feel like they're being mistreated by the WWF and vice versa. I think what would have really stirred the pot a little bit is bringing in, again, say if the Alliance brought in Sting. Again, big ego. I totally get that he didn't want to do it and everything of that sort. But, like, okay, we're tired of dealing with these same people. Now we're bringing in the big guns, and out comes Sting. And, oh, jeez. I mean, that wherever they would have done that, if they had ever done that, would have gone nuts. But as far as the Invasion pay-per-view, I thought it was great. And I still watch that all the time to this day, thanks to the WWE Network. So, it's not like that I don't ever not visit it, ever. 2001 is probably the most watched year of wrestling that I watch on the network. Because the quality was, between like 2001 and 2004, mainly around like 2001 to 2003, but because that was good stuff, and yeah, the Attitude Era and all that jazz. But I think that was probably one of the best times in wrestling, just that beginning of that supposed ruthless aggression era. So on that note, let me take a quick little music break here, about 2 minutes or so, and I'll come back. And if you're still in the chat, keep chatting it up. I'll get to you all in a little bit. and we'll just hang in from there. Hold on 1 minute. All right, and welcome back to Open Mic Wrestling Night here on Fill in the Void Podcast Network. I'll be with you just for a little bit longer before we sign off here for the night. Okay, so, and again, if you're listening to me here on Spreaker, Spreaker.com/filling_the_void. You could come into the chat and you could just talk up a storm if you wish. Excuse me. And who would be the guy that or girl that you most would have liked to have seen in the Alliance angle? Now, for draw purposes, Goldberg. I mean, my God. I mean, the money that they would have made would have been ridiculous. And even though I'm not a Shawn Michaels fan, maybe Shawn Michaels too. I mean, even though he did come back 2002, he had his last title run in the WWF or WWE then at the time when he won the Elimination Chamber. He had his moment. Sting would have been great. Jamal said Goldberg and Sting. Yeah, I mean, those two would have been the biggest draws. But then here comes the problem. Like I was saying kind of before, like if Hulk Hogan had come in, and I think there was only one match on camera in which Steve Austin and Hogan were in the ring. It was a 3-on-2 handicap match on a Raw between Hogan, Nash, and Hall versus The Rock and Stone Cold. That's the only time that they were ever in the ring together on camera. Like, you would imagine if again, I'll throw the scenario out there again. If Hulk Hogan was in this whole alliance angle, and especially the NWO, Hogan was the leader. So then how does that whole Steve Austin being the leader of the alliance work out? Do you get the milk truck moment where Angle sprays down the Alliance? Like, the main event part of it was so top-heavy that it was ridiculous. Now, again, I'm not grudging anybody for it. Let's see, the NWO trio versus DX. But which DX, though? Because, like, you had Billy Gunn, you had X-Pac, and I don't think Road Dogg was kind of in the fold at that point. Triple H? But even during this time, Triple H, I believe, was hurt with his first quadricep injury. And that's another thing to think about, too. Triple H was missing throughout most of this. How much different would it have been with Triple H involved? Would Triple H have been the one that was the leader of the Alliance, especially with Stephanie McMahon, his wife, now the owner of ECW? Like, would Triple H have been an Alliance member? Or, yeah, Benoit was missing with it too. Like, it's amazing. The people that were missing, I believe Eddie Guerrero too. Right? Or did he kind of come around as well? I'm not so sure. But the people that were missing, whether they're already contracted by the WWF, whether they're already contracted by WCW, and they just decided to hold out, and they didn't have their agreement with Vince McMahon. Scott Steiner should have been involved. He's another one, I think, that just sat on his WCW money and said, fuck it. He lost the last Nitro to Booker T for the WCW and US titles. And he was. But he also... Okay, so... We've been talking about how... Or I've been talking about, and Brandon kind of was talking about, where... Okay, what kind of can or jar of worms would have been open if certain players had arrived? But then there were novelties like Scott Steiner, as Eddie was released. That's right, Eddie was released because that was at the time that he was competing for Ring of Honor. That's right. Well, no, Ring of Honor was 2002, but yeah, no, he was competing on the Indies or whatever at that point too. Yep, I remember. Now I remember. But anyway, I think Scott Steiner came in at the time that he was supposed to come in. He debuted at the Survivor Series 2002, and the reaction he got, I was there live, and I don't know if you were there too, Jamels, but the reaction he got then was great, and the reaction that the NWO had when they came in was really good. Mysterio, when he eventually came in, it's like, okay. Now, one of these days down the line, if I ever really get interested, I'll have to interview somebody who was like in the inn to really get an idea. Or there is an interview out there, I don't know. I haven't really researched it. But, okay. How much of this was really these talents sitting on their prior employer's contract? Well, Heyman wasn't paying anybody anyway in ECW, so anything that they could have made was great. But for all the WCW contracted wrestlers, such as Mysterio, Steiner, Lex Luger, Savage, Goldberg, Sting, Hogan, Hall, Nash, how much of it was the ego thing? How much of it was ego? How much of it was we just don't have anything for you? Which I don't buy that, but think of it. No Way Out of 2002 was basically the coming out party for the WWF version of the WWF's version of the NWO. That whole pay-per-view was surrounded by No Way Out, which, oh, cool. The first three letters are NWO. Like,